Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. And good evening, everyone, again. So I think now it's 8:01 p.m., at least here in New York City. So I think we can start. And if anyone is going to join, they're just going to join as we go along. So good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be here again on our part 2 of the 3-part series on, having the real sex education talk with our teenagers. And I want to start again by saying thank you to ParentGood for hosting this 3-part series, and very excited for this opportunity to share the information and the tools with the parents. And I quickly also want to introduce myself again, if anyone is new and was not here last week. My name is Michal Greenberg-Cohen. I'm a parent sex educator, and I create brave space for mothers to better connect with themselves and with their teenagers so that they can have empowered and intimate conversation with their teens about sexual topics such as porn exposure, LGBTQ+, and safer sex. So, last week I set the foundation for what does it mean to have a conversation about sexuality and how we can really create a path for positive sexuality for our teenagers. And I want to offer you again to participate in this workshop. My intention is to have an interactive workshop. So it's not going to be only me talking, but also it's going to be in a collaborative, because I believe that we can all learn from one another, and everyone has great knowledge already. And I also believe that when we share the information and when we participate, then we gain more from each session. And I really want you to gain the maximum from showing up to the workshop today. Also, I want to acknowledge the space, and I want to acknowledge the fact that, yes, it is being recorded. And yes, we are talking about sensitive topics that I know that probably no one wants that to be shared online. Therefore, I want to let you know that, first of all, anything that is on the chat is not being recorded. So you can chat, and although your name is going to be next to it, it's not going to be in the recording. And when I read the chat, I do not read your name. So I want to encourage you to chat, to put your comments in the chat or questions, and just know that it's safe. Your name is not going to be attached to the question or the comments. And also, when you unmute yourself, I'm not going to say names as well. So you will know that even if when you're talking, there is no name attached to whatever you want to share or talk about or ask. So that brings me to really encourage you to participate, ask questions, and make comments, because this session is for all of us. And I really want us all to share and be active today. Okay, so today it's part 2, and we're going to talk about the relationship conversation. And I know it might sound a little heavy, the relationship conversation, but I also think that it's a super, super important conversation to have, because it's kind of like the umbrella for everything maybe underneath, that then we can dive deeper into more specific topics after that. And definitely this is what we're going to focus on the 3rd session. But today is the relationship conversation. And to start with, a quick activity I want us all to do is I want everyone to take 30 seconds and really think about think about 5 things that you do in your friendship to show that you value or like your friends. So take 30 seconds and think about what will be 5 things that you do or that you do in your friendship in order to show that you value or like your friends. So what do you do? What are things that you like doing with your friends or to your friends? So take 30 seconds and think about it, and then we're going to talk about it. And you can write that on your phone if you want. or even put that in the chat. Hadar, I think that you've seen my notes, probably. So so anyone wants to share what are things that they thought about that they like to do in their friendship to show that they value their friends? What will be things that you like doing? How do you show appreciation to your friends? Anyone wants to share? Is compliment them. Also, listen to them. Give gifts. Right? Who doesn't like to give gifts or to get gifts, right? Hugs. I'm a big hugger. Time and attention, right? Like spend time and, show them attention. I like that. Anything else? Like what else would you do to show appreciation? Share things with them, right? Yes. And also, like maybe I will add, like even like be the person they can share things with as well. Like feel like we can be their safe space as well. Perfect. Yes. Anything else that we like doing with our friends? Anyone wants to add? Like support them, right? Be there when they like care for them, right? So we all have things that we like doing to show appreciation, to show that we care. And I want to even add that we all have things that we expect from our friends to do if they're like good friends and if we trust them. So we also have expectations very similar to what we give them. And I want to use that as as a way to dive into the relationship conversation. And I want to offer us, when we think about our teenagers' relationship and how does that look like, that we actually need to look on two different aspects. We need to look about offline relationships, which is the in-person relationship. And we also need to look on the online relationship, because I want to argue that they are both as equal important for our teenager. So I'm going to write that on the board. And then I'm going to also explain why I actually believe that they're both as equal important. So give me a second. So we said that there is the offline relationships, and we have the online relationship. And when I shared it here, you can see, let me just bring it here. Okay, so you can see offline relationship and online relationship. And when I shared this information with parents, some of them actually said, well, the offline are real life. They're the real relationship. And I actually said, you know what? It's interesting because for our teenagers, that's not the reality. That's not true. Yes, for my generation, it's true. When we created relationship, it was only offline. It was not the online relationship. But if you think about our tweens or teens, they were born in a way with a smartphone. They are living in a reality that the smartphone or the internet, the digital age is part of their reality. Sometimes they even tell parents it's like the phone is part of their body in a way. So for them, the digital experience is as equally important and valid and real as the in-person experience. And therefore, when we think about relationship, and yes, I'm going to even say the sexual relationship, we cannot actually dismiss the online relationship. It's as equal as the offline. It's as equal important as the offline. And if we actually understand that, it gives us great start on what we should talk about and how we should talk about the relationship, because we're not only addressing one part of the relationship conversation, we're actually addressing the entire conversation. So with that saying, I want to hear from you, because if you notice, I put it under challenges. So if you think about, and let's start first with the offline relationship. If you think about the offline relationship, I want to ask you, what would you say will be challenges that either your teen is experiencing right now, or that you think about, you're concerned that they might experience as they, grow and actually become part of be in a relationship. So what will be challenges that you have in mind that they might experience? So let's talk about some challenges. What would you put under, and we're talking about offline first, offline relationships. What will be challenges? And you can just unmute yourself and say what you think, and I'm going to write that. So I see we have social pressure. Perfect. So can I put peer pressure? Because I think that for that age, it's the social, really, it's the peer pressure. So I'm going to write peer pressure.
Right.
Okay. Peer pressure. Perfect. Okay. What else? What will be other challenges? Because even think about what was your challenge as a teenager when it comes to relationship. So there are many, relationship is not easy. So, and think about, for them, teenagers, they're just figuring it out. So what will be a challenge for them?
Communication.
Okay. So meaning what is when you say communication, what do you mean?
I think, every relationship has this challenge, but especially when they're young, they're not they cannot process things in a healthy way yet, or maybe not enough. So
maybe challenge to communicate their feelings and
exactly,
their needs also.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put not communicating feelings and needs. Perfect. What else? Can I put abuse? Abuse might be a challenge, right? As part of a relationship, they might be offline, right? So I'm going to put abuse. What else? What else might be a challenge? What would you say? And there's no right or wrong, right? It's not about, hey, that's not a challenge. So what do you believe is a challenge for you, for your child? What would you add? I think I also, can I add bullying? That might be a challenge, right? And it's very trust. What can you share? What do you mean by trust? How do they are you mentioning how do they know who to trust, maybe, or to learn who to trust? To learn who to trust. Okay, perfect. Okay, so learn who to trust. Perfect. And I'll add bullying. And also,
I remember my parents as a challenge.
what?
I said I remember my parents as a challenge. Actually,
So like talking about relationship with the parents, with your parents,
especially I think with boyfriends that they didn't like, or they didn't support this relationship. So that was that. Yeah.
So maybe parents not supporting the relationship.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Not supporting the relationship. I think I need to get like a faster way to write relationships, like acronym or something. All right, so we have challenges when it comes to offline relationship. Perfect. And now, because I said that equally important is the online relationship, what would you say will be challenges as online relationships? So now we are moving to the digital, to the digital world. So what will be challenges if you think about your children online and having relationship online? What will then be a challenge?
I think now it's really relevant to learn who to trust.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Who to trust. What else? And you can definitely, as a hint, can take things that we wrote offline and think about how will that manifest online. Like bullying might be like cyberbullying. So that could be a challenge. And I know that it's very, very strong today, the cyberbullying for many tweens and teens. So that's definitely a challenge. What else? What else will be a challenge online? What do you think? When you think about your children having a relationship online, what are you afraid of? Like, what worries you?
That the other person won't give them the right information, or that they can't really know if the other person is
right. So can I put
to be trusted? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Predators. Right. So we have predators online, right? And that's very scary that our son or daughter will meet someone or give information to someone they don't know really who they are. Bad influence, right? Yes. Also, can I put also low body image, right? If you think about the online relationship, there's a lot about like how I look, how others see me, and like all the time with the filters and like the likes and all the time. There's like a lot of conversation around a specific body image. And if you're not qualified, then you're not good. So I'm going to put low body image. And one more. Let's do one more.
Well, I'm not sure if it's a part of something we already wrote here, but maybe if they sending pictures of themselves, it might be problematic.
Right. Yeah. Right. So maybe like nudity images.
Yeah, exactly.
Images. Right. And I'll just add my final note because that's my specialty, and we're probably going to talk about obsessions. Perfect. So I'm going to put obsessions, and also probably we're also going to focus on, and the third workshop is porn exposure, right? Like that happens, porn exposure today, most of it happens online. So I'm going to put obsession. And porn exposure. Sorry about all the noise. We all got used to do Zoom and to write everything on Zoom, and I feel like I'm doing the old time version of just writing on a whiteboard. So so we have the challenges, and some of them are different, right? We have the offline relationship challenges and the online relationship challenges, and they're all valid and they're all true as a challenge for us and for our teenager. And now, and I don't know if you remember, we did the same exercise in terms of thinking. I want you to think about what will be positive when you think about positive relationship. What do you want your teen to understand of what does it mean to be in a positive relationship? So think about what qualities, what are the characteristics of that they will know that, hey, this is a positive relationship, and how do you want them to behave, and how do you want their partner to behave to them? So what would you say you want them to know or to have in a positive relationship? Care, respect, love that, okay? Care, respect. Perfect. Honesty. Perfect. Yes. Yes. Always, right? Always. Always is important. Yes. Friendship. I love that. What else? What else do we want? Good communication. Perfect. Yes. Great. Can I put consent? We want them to know, to understand consent as part of the relationship. Yes. Yes, consent is very, very important, and it's a big topic today in our culture. Great. Good influence. Great. Influence. Great. I want to put boundaries. What do you think about support each other? Perfect. Support each other. What about boundaries? Would you put boundaries as part of positive relationship? Yes. Boundaries. Okay. Oh. Boundaries. Okay, anything else you want to add as a positive relationship? All right, so we have the characters, like what we believe we all should experience, and everyone, and we want our children also to experience as part of positive relationship. And what I want to offer you, the same as I offered last time, is that let's take the challenges that they might have or already experience, or they might going to experience in the offline and the online relationship, and have that as an opportunity to teach them and to guide them to what does it mean actually to be or to have positive relationship. So instead of us being afraid to talk about any of those topics and to bring that as a conversation, let's use that and let's talk about all those topics, and not at the same time, right? But let's not be afraid of addressing those topics so that we can tell them what they should actually look for and how they should actually behave. And we're going to go deeper on those conversations, but I want you to think about that, the idea of having the conversation from that aspect of as an opportunity to teach them this. So I'm going to pause for a second because I need to drink my tea, always same tea every time. And also pause to see if anyone has any questions that they want to ask before we're going to dive even deeper into the relationship conversation. And if you have any question, you can just also unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so I see we can continue. So now I am going to be a little creative, so you also need to be a little patient with me as well. So I want to dive deeper into the relationship conversation and really look into what we should talk about when we think about offline relationship. I want to offer my top topics that we should address, and then we're going to do the same with online relationships. So for that, and here, this is where my creativity comes. So I hope it will work, but give me a second. So I'm going to use more paper. Yeah. Okay. So I think you can see, right? You can see my paper. Yes. Maybe I'll move it a little. Okay. Maybe here. Put it here. Great. So I want to keep the challenges and the positive relationship for us as well. Okay. So let's talk about offline relationships. Let's start with that. So when we think about offline relationship, I want us to think about 4 topics that I want to highly encourage you to at least address each of those topics, and each one of them should be a different conversation with your teenager. So let's talk about, so we're talking about offline relationships. So the first topic is, I call it setting boundaries. And I want to ask you, when you think about setting boundaries, what do you think? Like, what would be setting boundaries? Like, if I will tell you, hey, now sit with your son or daughter and talk with them about setting boundaries in the relationship, what would you say? Like, what would you talk about? So number 1 is setting boundaries. So what will be setting boundaries for you? Like, we all have our boundaries, right? If you would need to speak with your best friend about setting boundaries in the relationship, what would that look like?
No violence.
Okay. So meaning like do not accept any violence as like part of boundaries. Okay. So I see respect each other opinion. Like, okay, so we have respect opinions. And I also want to add that it's not like let's add to the opinions, like also respect desires and also respect no, right? So respect opinion, desires, and no, right? Sometimes it's hard for others to respect no, but it's important. And then we said about violence. So maybe I want to say kind of like be aware and reject violence. Okay. What else? What else will be boundaries? What about, spending time apart, right? Like you don't always need to be with the other person. Think about like your child, when they start being in a relationship, they have no idea actually what does it mean to be in a romantic relationship. Right, own your space, right? They have no idea. For them, it's like first time, and they're excited, and they have all those like feelings suddenly. So for them, it could be like very total, like they just want to be with this person all the time, or that the other person just all the time wants to be with them, and they don't know what to do with that. So, and if you think about it, it's not something that they get a manual and it's like, oh, welcome to your first romantic relationship. This is how it should look like, right? So they don't know unless we will actually have conversation with them about that and share with them some of the things they need to be aware of. So I'm going to say like own space. And time apart. And also, and another thing that I think it's very important, and I highly recommend parents to talk with their teens about it, it's that sex isn't a currency. And what I mean about that is that if someone tells you, hey, like, I love you, and therefore you need to do this for me, or if you don't do this for me, then it doesn't mean that you love me. It doesn't mean that you care about me. Or if I drove you someplace, then you need to kiss me, hug me, or have sex with me, right? So this exchange, it's like for us, maybe it's obvious, but let's think about our teens. Is it really obvious for them that sex, right? Learn to say no. Perfect. So learn to say no, and also really understand that sex isn't a currency. It's not about you need to give it to someone because they did something to you. It doesn't come like that. And think about how powerful it could be if you as a parent tell that to your teenager, boy or girl, right? So sex isn't a currency. And learn to say no. Perfect. Okay, so now what I want to do, so here are ideas about setting boundaries. The second topic I highly recommend for any parents to talk about is consent, right? And we talked about consent. And so 2 will be consent. And if you think about consent, our children live in a consent culture. And they are being taught in school a lot about consent. But I highly recommend parents to also sit with their teen and have a consent conversation about what does it mean for them, how consent looks like in a romantic relationship. And I call it like have an adult conversation about that, right? Like what happens if you love someone but you don't feel like you want to hug them, or you don't feel like you want to kiss them? Can you say no? And even I always say, like, even talk with them, even in marriage, consent needs to be given. And so really, talk with them about the idea of consent, about really showing consent as part of building relationships. And I think that we really owe that to them, because there's cultural expectations today about consent, and they also need to hear it from us. So, so let me know if you have any thoughts about consent, anything that you will add that you think is important about consent. Or you think I covered everything related to consent? Okay, so number 2 was consent, and then number three is as a powerful one, and it's abuse. And I believe that we need to talk with our children about abuse. And so let me just write that for a second. And I don't know if anyone here watched the Netflix series, The Maid, but it's bringing to the, to prime time, the conversation around not only the physical abuse, but the other aspects of abuse. Right. And I see there is, don't afraid to speak when the partners ask you to do something that you don't want to. Right. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And we need to tell them that. We need to give them that power to speak when they need to. And I want to ask you, when we think about abuse, what would you say are types of abuse? So, the easier one will be physical abuse, but what are additional types of abuse that we know exist? Besides physical? Emotional? Perfect, yes. And emotional, sometimes or many times also considered as the verbal abuse. So you talk and you abuse emotionally. Mental abuse, right? Right? What else? I'm looking for 2 more. Actually 3. But the last one is a tricky one. So 2 more. How about financial abuse, right? That either that you are denied access to money, and you might be even the person who brings money to the household, but still being denied the access to the money, right? So that's also financial. And also there is sexual abuse, right? Sometimes because we talk about abuse and we say physical and verbal, emotional and mental, then I always forget about, yes, the sexual, right? So sexual abuse, right? And the last one, which is super interesting because it's a new abuse, and I got it from the domestic violence hotline website. It's actually digital abuse. And if you think about it, what we spoke before about the idea that we need to talk about online relationship, then it totally makes sense that there is also abuse on digital devices, right? It could be like someone that wants to know all your passwords and check your messages, and maybe like you need to answer them all the time and let you know when they are, or maybe they following you, they see where you are all the time. So think about, how much power there is in just someone else in a way holding or having all, access and check your phone or your devices all the time. So I think it's amazing to think about it, but it's true. It makes so much sense. So digital abuse. And the reason that I put abuse as part of my 4 topics that I think we need to talk with our children is that because if you think about it, most of the time, our children are being exposed, usually on TV and also in conversation, only about the physical abuse. And they are not being exposed to any of the other abuses, not the emotional, the mental, the physical, the financial, the sexual, or the digital. So what happened is that if they are entering a relationship that has any of those kinds of abuses, they don't know that. They have no idea that what they are experiencing is abuse until maybe when it's like really, really bad things happen. And this is why we need to teach them. We need to have the conversation and tell them about the different kinds of abuse, so that if they are entering any kind of that kind of relationship, they will understand the red flags faster, and they will be able to ask for support faster, right? And this is upon us, because no one else, think about who else tells them that. Most of the time, not school, definitely not the TV. So if it's not us, then who will? And I know you're gonna hear this last sentence, if it's not us, then who will, a lot in the next 2 sessions. But I really believe that this is, and you know what, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because if it's not us, who will? And that's where I want to show you that it's like, if you think about it, I know what I need to talk with my son or daughter about, right? So this is number 3. And then number 4, and I think that number 4 is also very powerful. Number 4 is about, I call it, how to seek help for you, for yourself or your friend, okay? And so how to seek help. And the reason that I think we need to talk with our children about that is because if you think about it, things might go wrong for them and they might not come to us, right? And we don't know why, but there is a chance that at the beginning they might be afraid or ashamed, or they don't want to disappoint us. They might not come to us. And think about how powerful it is if I will sit now with my son and tell him, you know what, I know that maybe you won't come to me when you will really need help. I don't know why, but maybe it's not going to be me. Maybe I'm not going to be your first trusted adult, and that's okay. But I want you to know, let's discuss who you can actually ask for help. Maybe it's your grandmother. Maybe it's your teacher that you really like. And also maybe, there are many hotlines on the internet, right? The same as the domestic violence hotline. There is the Trevor Project, which is LGBTQ plus hotline. There are stress hotline. There are many, many resources online today for teenagers. And when I do that with my son, then first of all, I show him that I get it, that maybe I'm not going to be his first person to ask for support. But at the end of the day, I don't want him to be alone. I want him to know that he can ask for support, even if it's not from me, from his mother. And I want to encourage all of you to do the same, because when they will need support, they probably won't know what to do. So if we actually put in the seed at the beginning and tell them, when those times come, here are some options, right? And if it's not me, here are some options, then there is a bigger chance that they will seek for those options. And also, if they want to help their friends, then they could be better friends to them because they will have ideas of how and who to ask for support. So these are my 4 top topics to talk about when it comes to offline relationships. So I'm gonna, let you ask me questions, and also I need to take a few sips from my tea. So let me know if you have any questions. And I know it's heavy. I know, you know what, it is like, there's no matter how much I try not to make it heavy, I cannot, like, it's not working for me. It's always heavy. But I think that sexuality is a heavy topic, and I get it, but it's a serious conversation. But I also think about, if you think about just giving that to our children, how amazing it is and how important. And, it's like, I wish someone would have talked with me about that. So we have the chance to do that for our children. And I think that's amazing. Any questions about offline relationships? All right. So guess what? We are moving to online relationships. So I'm gonna see how I can do that logistically, but I will take that down. Okay. All right, and I prepared in advance another paper. It's really cool. It's paper that has like static, electric static. So it's really nice, actually. Okay. So after we spoke about offline relationships, let's talk about online relationships. And let me give you my 4 topics that I highly recommend every parent will talk with their son or daughter about. Okay. And I have 11 minutes, so I'm going to be extremely mindful for the time. So I'll choose another color. Okay. So the first item that I really believe that we should talk with our son or daughter is actually privacy. And if you think about privacy, it might be like, come on, Michal, like, duh, like, they know privacy. But I actually want to argue that we can have the conversation in a deeper sense when it comes to relationship, right? Like, what does it mean to have your own privacy online when you're part of a relationship? Like, do you share your email password, right? Do you share your phone password? Do you let them see your text messages? I think that this is, and it's not about right or wrong. It's really about having a conversation with them so they will start thinking about the fact that there is an aspect of privacy on their online world that comes as part of the relationship. So I know it's kind of like, it's a small item, but if you think about it, it's very powerful because it's like, let's talk about it for a second and let's have them think about what is privacy on their online world as part of a relationship looks like for them. So this is the first item that I highly recommend because it seems so obvious, but it's actually not. So really talking with them about that. And the second item is, hold on. Anyone wants to guess the second items? And it's not porn. Porn is number 4. But what will be another item that you think you would put as an online relationship on the top 4? Any guess? All right, only because of time, I'm going to tell you. So number 2 is sexting. And sexting is sending a nudity image or video to someone else on any device, digital device, your phone, the internet, your computer, iPad, any device. And the thing with sexting is, first of all, we need to understand, we need to let them know, and we also need to know that sending and receiving any nudity image of someone that is younger the age of 17 is considered as child pornography. And it's a federal offense. So it's illegal. And now, many times, even if we tell our kids that something is illegal, doesn't mean that they will not do it. But we still need to open the conversation around that. And we need to talk with them and say, what happened when someone asked you to send a nudity image? Would you do it? If the answer is yes, then why? And if the answer is no, then why? And also, how do you deal with pressure of hey, I'll send you mine, you'll send me yours, right? And there's a lot of pressure to send nudity images. And also have the conversation of what happened when you send it, and then can you really control what will happen to it once it's being sent, right? So there are a lot of things that we can cover when we talk about sexting. And the goal in the sexting conversation should be about open their eyes to what could be the consequences of sexting. How much, once something is being sent and it's their own nudity, it's actually they're losing control of that image in that moment and what might happen. So, and then you can think with them about, okay, what could be an alternative? What happens if we do feel like we want to send something sexy? So can it be something else that doesn't show our naked body? So yes, it's awkward conversation and it might be a weird one. And, we're talking about our kids sending nude images, but again, who else is going to talk with them about it if it's not us? Because they might only have the conversation about, hey, send me your nude image, right? Send me your penis, send me, how your breast looks like, right? And they might not even think about what are the consequences because no one spoke with them about it. And if you think about it, teenagers don't have the fully developed brain of an adult. And I actually want to say that even adults, get in trouble for that, right? How many stories we have of people that send nude images, and then we all know that it didn't end in one person's phone, but it was published all over. So sexting is a heavy topic, super, super important. Okay, number 3 on my top list is talking about online predators. 3 is online predators. And online predators is important because we need to allow our children to know that not always the other person, if they don't know them, really they might not be who they claim they are. And they need to know that they can't go to someone else's house because they think they are their age. And if they want to meet someone that they never seen before, then maybe they need to meet in a public space. They need to let you know where they're going, and also take a friend or someone that can be with them. Also not sharing passwords with someone they don't know, not sending nude images. There are a lot of stories about sending nude images to predators. So we need to raise that topic and say, in the online space, there are many predators, and let's brainstorm of like, how can we identify predators that are maybe playing with us or chatting with us. They're online, and they're very smart, and they know how to get to our children. So it's our job to have the conversation about what we can do to prevent that, or to minimize that, or how to be safe in that area. And the last one, and I know I'm a little running, but I also want to be mindful for the time. The number 4 is talking about porn exposure. And I want to say, like online porn and porn influence. Now, I will say that when I talk or think about online porn, we are going to talk about that deeper in our next session, because I believe that, if you think about like, the path for positive sexuality, and then like talking about relationship, when we actually move and talk about pornography inside the pornography conversation, we can actually also tackle a lot of different conversation relevant to more subtopics inside sexuality. Whether it's like, I'm just teasing you for next time, but like, body image, and also consent, and all that things that we can definitely use in the porn conversation. And I think the online porn conversation is super important because our children are online. And we know from all research that by the age of 18, I want to say like 95% of them are going to watch pornography. And this is a conversation that we should not avoid with our children, because no one else is talking with them about it. And then the only platform that is talking with them about sex is pornography, very visual, very there. And then who else is talking with them and giving them an alternative? And it's really, we are the one who can do that. And so I'm going to pause for a second and really, just, for the online relationship, these are the 4 topics that I highly recommend every parent will talk with their son or daughter about when it comes to relationship, and really have that as a conversation. So I'm going to pause, ask if anyone has questions. And I know it's like a lot. And the online I did a little fast, but.
First thing I wanted to say, thank you so much for this important information. I think a lot of parents don't even know where to start, so it's really good to know what to talk about. I wanted to ask about porn. Should we talk with them about it, like before we even know if they were exposed to it?
Great question. So my answer is yes. And I actually think that if we talk about pornography, and we're also going to cover that in the next session, if we talk about pornography before they are exposed, then we actually minimize the first, sometimes it's like a trauma for them, like the first time they are going to be exposed to, and usually the first time is unintentional. So when we actually talking about pornography before, and we share some, and like we're going to talk about that next time, then we actually prepare them of what they're going to see, so that when it happens, it's less influence in them. They're like, oh, like mommy told me about that, and I know what it is, and like, okay, it's a movie, I get it. It's not like, that's not how real sex should look like. So they have a better idea of what they're watching, and it's not like, oh my God, like what is this? So yes, I highly recommend really like starting the porn conversation very soon. And some will even say that it's better to have a quick or somewhat porn conversation when you give your child a smartphone, and even when you have access, when you allow them access to the internet, because usually the first time is unintentional. It might be a pop-up. They might just look for, kiss on Google. Or even like you can look for pork on Google, and if you scroll down, you start seeing porn. So yes, actually, I believe that we should be proactive when it comes to the porn conversation, and definitely I'm gonna dive deeper on that next week. But yes, great question. Thank you. Any additional questions? And also, I just actually want to say, you mentioned the fact that there are like many topics. I shared, let's say, 8 topics that we should think about. So pick the topic that you think will be the easiest one for you to start the conversation, right? Just pick one, and then just like have 3-minute conversation, like a quick conversation. Don't make it heavy, and see what happens. Just like start opening the conversation. So, and then build on that and add more and more topics as, you feel like, they're ready to have other conversations. So don't have like the 8 in one time. Just choose one. All right, before we end, I would love also to hear from you. And if you can just put one word in the chat, like one thing, like one word that you're taking from this session today. So what would it be? One word that you're taking from today. So you can share with me. So I see digital abuse. I love that, right? I also, when I saw that, I'm like, that's good. Yes, we don't think about it. Great, thanks. What else? What else are you taking from today? One more. Healthy relationship, yes. Like how important it is, right? And how much things that we should talk and address. I also want to add, like for me, also the awareness of like what's going on, and also like what's important for us to share and to talk about with our teenagers. All right, so it's 9:04 my time, 6:04 if you're Pacific time, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for staying with me the entire session, and thank you for participating and listening. And I really hope that you got something out of today. And I really, really hope to see you also in, next week. We're going to really dive deeper into the porn conversation. And you can also reach out to me and ask me questions if you want through the message, through ParentGood. I would love to support you. It was great being here today. Really, really appreciate that. Have a great rest of the evening. Bye-bye.